the emails as they continue to come out. So, yeah, how does that get very much more exciting, right?
Amber bond.
Right. Yes. So my tablet, of course, is now gone into sleep mode. So I will introduce our speaker, Lynn Toenjes, this evening. He's the president of the AGC of Missouri, and we've asked him now, this is the second year, to come give us his perspective on what he's hearing that is to be in 2019 in the St. Louis market, and perhaps even beyond St. Louis. So we're all hearing of big projects like NGA, the soccer stadium, perhaps a new bridge across the Mississippi in terms of railroad. I think we talked about that last year, and maybe an update as to how that's going as well. So Lynn became president of AGC of St. Louis in 1996, correct, Lynn? And when did Missouri and St. Louis combine?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So that was a combination that maybe you can enlighten us on as well. So without further ado, everybody, Lynn Toenjes.
Thank you. I'm loud, so I'm going to wander around a little bit while I do this. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. It was an ice storm last year when I did this, so I don't bring the sunny weather, unfortunately. I sort of divided this talk up into a couple different sections. How many people in here work exclusively in the St. Louis marketplace? About a third. So 2/3 are working outside of here, and that's indicative of what all of our contractors and all of our members are doing. So I broke the talk down into national, state, and local. And I'm going to sort of attack it in that way. And at each level, I want to talk about sort of what happened in 18, and then where we're going in 19, sort of what the results were from 18 and where we're going from 19. I have to admit, for any of you who use PowerPoint, I apologize in advance because I hate using PowerPoint. I'd much rather talk where I can look at people and people are looking at me. I do have a couple of handouts. I didn't print a bunch of handouts so you don't get gravy all over them. But if you want, I've got a couple of handouts to talk about some of the 19 projections. And if you give me a business card when I'm done, I'll be glad to email them to you so you can look at them that way. So, National 2018. At the end of 2018, and I've got information here from AGC of America, Department of Labor, you name it. At the end of 2018, there were 278,000 job openings nationwide in the construction industry. That is 24% higher than it was at the end of 2017. I talked with a few of you while we were out there talking about workforce, and 78, there was a survey, a nationwide survey of AGC contractors across the United States. 78% of contractors said they were having trouble finding people. So workforce is still an issue that we're working on. It's something that's continuing forward. If you listen to the governor's State of the State address this afternoon, if you're really bored, that was one of his two things, was workforce. But that is something that our folks are focused on. So what happened with the value of construction starts in 2018? Value of construction starts increased 6.3% from 17 to the end of 18. in that 1 month. But for the year as a whole, construction starts were down 5%. So 2018 was down 5% overall from 2017. Residential, down 10%. Commercial, down 2%. Nationwide, road and bridge construction was up about 20%. Not in Missouri, but overall, road and bridge was up about 20%. You can go through all these. The biggest drops were commercial down 30%, institutional was down 2%, manufacturing was down 7%. So now the ones that were up, highways, water, sewage, warehouse a little bit. So overall, it was really a mixed bag in 18. Workforce pressures were there, but the market was off a little bit nationally. AGC contracted with Sage and did a survey of contractors, and nationwide, so nationwide, what does 19 look like? What do they think about what's going to happen in 19? Contractors remain confident about demand, worried about labor supply. So, majority of firms plan to invest more in training and development in 19, and nearly half expect to increase their investment in IT. So if you can't find people, I guess buy some more computers. This is sort of done by region. There's really nearly identical percentages across the regions, but there's a high level of uniformity on projects. So I kind of want to go through different market segments as far as where they see the strengths coming in the market segments. Most people say increase, except for multifamily residential, which was kind of flat. Public building construction, highest net positive, 17%. Three others were at 16%. Highway, K through 12, and hospitals. Federal government, which might change with what's going on in Washington, was up 15%. Water and sewer, 14%. Private office, 13%. Power construction, 10%. So that's sort of the breakdown of what they saw there. Midwest, the most positive in the Midwest, hospitals. 22% were positive on health care in the Midwest, and the least positive was multifamily, 2% for multifamily. So a lot of people looking at hiring. What they're doing, like I said, if they can't find the people, they're investing in technology. A third said they're using methods to reduce on-site work time, including lean, BIM, virtual construction, off-site fabrication, 28% drones, robots, 3D printers, GPS-guided equipment, and unfortunately, I know this is bad news, but 18% talked about adding specialists such as architects. So you came in third place behind the specialists. You are called a specialist. So that's how they're nationally, it looks like an uptick year in those particular market segments. Overall, there was really no no market segment that was down nationally. It was all up to varying degrees. So there was a high amount of optimism in that look through. So, and this is one of the documents I have. This is the breakdown that Sage did that has all the details. What's higher, what's lower, what numerical change do you expect your head count to be? 77% said they would be adding people. How do you expect availability of hourly craft workers and salary personnel? It will continue to be hard to hire, 42%. 63% increase in training and development. Interestingly enough, 38% don't use BIM. Everybody else does, at least according to what they answered on the survey. So this front page here really has all the breakdown of all the different market segments nationwide. And like I said, if anybody wants this, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Just give me your card. So that's sort of where we are nationally. The shutdown, yeah.
Is that something you post on your website, or do you not?
AGC of America.
You do that.
It's on the AGC of America website.
Maybe we could just link it from our website.
Yes, yeah, it's on the AG, yeah. What's the shutdown mean? I was talking to somebody today that had some sort of a legal dispute with EPA. They called because they needed to get a hold of somebody to find out how this was going to be resolved. And you'll be happy to know that the lawyers at EPA are non-essential employees. So their EPA has a hiring freeze. They're kind of hurting. The agencies that are not affected at all: Department of Labor, which includes OSHA, wage and hour, OFCCP, no changes. The ones that are affected a little bit: minimal impact, Department of Transportation, Federal Highway. Now, projects they have let already, they're continuing on. Interestingly enough, a couple of states, one of our neighboring states, Oklahoma and New Mexico, have canceled their January project lettings for fear of what's going to happen with the federal matching funds. Missouri is one of the highest states in terms of the federal match. 70% of our road program is federal match. So if the FHWA turns the faucet off, that could be a problem for us. Other agencies that are slightly affected include like Department of the Interior, so that's the Park Service that we know about, GSA, Homeland Security. We've heard the story about all the TSA agents. I heard on the news pulling in here that they're holding food drives down in the Miami airport. People are bringing canned goods in for the TSA people. I don't know how that's going to go to work. HUD is impacted a little bit, and I'll tell you how this impacts HUD. I did the research for this, and most of the agencies have like a 2 or 3 page sort of description. HUD had a 90-page description of all the different agencies and all the different ways this is impacting them. So some are untouched. VA, like I said, VA is untouched. OSHA, those folks. But any of these other agencies, I think it's really important before you get too far is to probably look at what have trouble finding a contact. The offices are kind of empty. My over-under on the shutdown is 50 days. I don't know if I don't know who wants to take the over on that, but you know, we're 26 now. So.
Is there a current director of OSHA?
I don't know. I don't know. So sort of to get away from the numbers, the national numbers, 2019, I also looked at FMI, and FMI had their 6 technology innovations to watch in engineering and construction for 2019. And it's all stuff that you know about, but probably are worth talking about. Wearables, employee tracking devices. I know this is really being done in for safety. You know, AGC of Missouri represents both building and highway contractors. And the wearables are something that really, when you've got people in a dangerous situation, if they're in a tunnel, if they're in a work zone, on the roadway, the technology is really becoming there to signal people if there's a car entering the work zone or whatever may be happening. So I think the wearables are something that are going to be probably more prevalent in the field as technology sort of moves out of the office, out onto the job site. AI, and I'm sure some of you at the bigger firms are seeing AI with some of the modeling and the virtual walkthroughs and some of the scheduling. Drones, especially for safety. Falls account for 37% of work-related deaths, so the drones being used for looking for safety violations or watching for safety violations as much as taking the as-built. Predictive analysis, robotics. I saw a presentation, this was a little bit of a futuristic thing. I don't think it's going to be 2019, but I think it was Trimble had a LiDAR machine that was on a little robot, maybe about 2 feet long, about 3 feet high. Looked like that thing up on that post up there. And it crawled around, it was on tracks, and it crawled around the job site. It could go up steps, it could go over pumps and stuff like that. And the LiDAR was measuring what it was seeing as it was tracking around. It was comparing that to the BIM model, which included the schedule. So it was all tied together. So supposedly somebody back in their office can sit at the end of the day and say, you know, those 3 lights were supposed to be installed today, but my model shows me they didn't get in. Or, you know, in addition to your normal stuff. And it works perfectly until the superintendent throws a trash can over it. You know? But I think sort of that. And then, you know, we've heard a ton of stuff about autonomous vehicles. I'm a big podcast guy, and there's a guy that has a podcast that is just about autonomous vehicles. And I think we're going to see those in construction prior to them being out on Lindell Boulevard. Because you can use them in a quarry, you can use them inside a job site. MoDOT right now has 4 or 5 of their vehicles down in Florida getting retrofitted to be autonomous, so that when you see the vehicle with the crash bumper on behind it to stop somebody from hitting a work crew, that those are autonomous vehicles, so you don't have to have a driver sitting there running that thing that may be in harm's way. You're gonna see, I think we're gonna start seeing those more, because let's face it, we're in a controlled environment in the construction world. So it's gonna be, there's a lot more control there than there is, like I said, out here on Lindell, and it's a whole different set of questions. 4 trends to watch. And this is not technology, these are just like trends that came from FMI, geography. Mark talked about our merger. 4 years ago, AGC St. Louis, which was formed in 1949, merged with AGC of Missouri. That was formed in Jefferson City in 1929. And we merged, and our folks were like, why do we want to do that? That's two like totally different cultures. And I said, let me ask you how many of you guys are running your business and figure the long-term future for success is to stay, do all your work in the St. Louis metropolitan area in a union environment. That's your long-term road to success, right? And look at me like, well, no, I got an office in Phoenix, I got an office in Atlanta, I got an office in Portland, so, you know, even in what I consider a relatively mid-sized company like Petcher Construction, look at their website. I mean, they're working in Scottsdale, they're working all over the place. So, geography, over the next 3 to 5 years, nearly 50% of construction is expected to occur in just 20 metropolitan markets. 50% of construction in 20 markets.
Name those markets.
New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, and DC. Those will make up, yeah. 5 of those 5 markets will be 20% of the total market. New York, LA, Dallas, Houston, DC. That'll be 20% of the construction market in the next 5 years. I might as well bring it up now. AGC of America, their chief economist released every month, Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks changes in construction employment in all the statistical metropolitan areas, all the MSAs. Top 350 MSAs from November of 2017 till November of 2018. Top 350, St. Louis, 350. The bottom change in construction employment from 17 to 18. I was shocked. We were, I think we were tied with Lubbock, Texas, for change in construction employment. So,
Is that a negative change or positive?
negative change. It was a -7% in construction employment from 17 to 18. So, so that's a trend. And then I read this from FMI, I'm like, well, I guess that kind of ties together. Second key trend, influx of new entrants into the market. I'm sure you have seen a tremendous amount of venture capital coming in. Obviously, I think we've seen it. For AGC, if you're a member, it's a company membership. It's not individual membership. And our membership, we just had Volk and KAI merge. We see this whole KAI also sucked up Crown Electric. So that was 3 members down to 1 member. So that consolidation, is gonna continue to happen in all these, new entrants. Increasing complexity, third trend, that's no big surprise to anybody. New technology, broader use of prefabrication. Talked about unitizing stuff and all that, prefab that's one way to deal with the worker shortage. Prefab, one of our contractors in Columbia, Missouri won an AGC of America Build America Award. Anybody notice the big shutdown on Highway 70 in Columbia last year when they replaced all the bridges? No, because they prefabbed the bridges next door, off-site, and when they were done, they shut down the highway for a Saturday and slid the bridges into place with dish soap.
What brand? What brand?
Yeah, I don't remember. That's an example of prefabrication, obviously. It's safer, it's less expensive. Yes, sir.
Has there been union pushback against prefab? That's what you think?
Not yet, not yet. I think what we've seen, Angie was talking about in the mechanical world, you see, I think BJC over here, almost all of that, all those pipe racks and all those assemblies were prefabbed, and they, I think they brought them over and hung them in place. Everything's up on the 13th floor there, and I think that whole 13th floor was just trucked in and Lego pieces, wasn't it?
It's very common, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of guys will prefab in their shops, but even manufacturers are selling prefab, full piped in, pieces.
Yeah, I sat next to a guy at a
Save labor.
cocktail party that, his business was building electrical rooms for Walmart. That he's got a plant in North Carolina and a plant somewhere out west, and they build the electrical room, make up all the circuits and everything, and then they take it out. And I said, how do you get by the union rules for the electrical inspector? He said, well, we got inspectors that are put a UL tag on it. It's just like plugging in a toaster. It's just a plug in.
Well, local guys don't like that, but who likes Walmart anyway?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They make their own rules.
That's right, they make their own rules. But there are, I will say that, in varying degrees, I wouldn't want to paint all the unions with the same brush. Some are more adaptive to it than others, let's put it that way. And then, greater use of data analytics, greater access to data, industry leaders are incorporating technologies as tools, helps drive informed decision-making, analysis leading firms to adopt more of a manufacturing model. So that's pretty much along the lines of the sort of things that we're talking about as far as a prefab. So that's the national story. State. Go back to the workforce. The AGC of America survey and said that 78% nationally were having trouble with workforce. Break down the Missouri numbers, and I have that same report, that same chart I showed you. This is the chart for Missouri. So it's the same chart except this one. I have the national and the Missouri one. National was 78%, Missouri was 73%, so slightly lower. Little less pressure on workforce for us. What were people doing to try to deal with the worker shortage? Another of the questions on here was that 37% nationally said the way they deal with the worker shortage is raise the prices. In Missouri, that's 21%. So it's a third lower. There's a little less, price flexibility there as far as, how to do that, what's going on there. So looking at 19, where are the strong markets in 19? And I'll sort of compare Missouri to the national here. I'll try not to drop all my papers. Retail nationally, top three, bottom three, okay? Nationally, 15% positive, and Missouri, 31% positive. So the outlook for retail in Missouri is almost double as far as the positive outlook for the contractors on retail. Almost the same thing on office construction. Nationally, 13% think that's a good thing. In Missouri, 25%. So office is strong. It's 12 points higher. 12 points higher optimism level for office.
Projecting decreases in construction of retail fixed stores.
Retail, number one.
Why? Amazon, there's Google, there's,
It includes the Amazon warehouses.
well,
Yeah, 43% are just bullish on retail.
really,
That's what they're seeing.
okay.
And power, nationally 10%, and then in Missouri 23%. So those are the top three markets that it looks like for positivity in Missouri is retail, office, and power construction. Bottom three, no surprise, highway construction. Nationally, it's a positive 16%. In Missouri, it's a negative 15%. 30%, 30-point swing in terms of highway construction. Higher ed,
What's the main reason? What is the main reason? So they're depending so much on federal money is what it is?
yeah, well, it depends so much on federal money, and if you look at all of the I was at a meeting that was all the upper Midwest states, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri. Every one of those surrounding states' highway programs is like $1.2, $1.3 billion annually. Missouri is like $950 million. 900 million. So the dollars just aren't
It
there.
comes from the gas tax, we have the lowest
Right.
gas tax in the country.
We have 49 gas tax. There's only one state that's lower than Missouri.
So that's where the
Alaska.
money is coming from.
Alaska is the only state that has a lower fuel tax per gallon than Missouri. So and right now, MoDOT is deficit spending by $200 million a year. They've got 2 more years to go. And then they're gonna be cash flowed out. So, the governor in the state of the state today announced a bonding program. They're gonna try to borrow the money. Now, he announced a $350 million bonding program to replace like 200 bridges. Because that's what's happening is some of the bridges are starting to get load rated where they can't take a school bus or whatever over the top of them. So the highway construction is really a dead downer on this whole thing. I'd hate to see what would happen if that Rocheport Bridge would collapse. Anybody's been across that?
Which one?
Rocheport, when you go west of Columbia, there's a big
Oh, yeah.
ravine that goes down there, and those bridges are 70, 80 years old, and there's no way around that thing. There's no way around it. So higher ed nationwide is +11, Missouri is -9. So it looks like that market is kind of also a soft market, and K-12 is not far behind it. So the education market, as far as higher ed and K-12 looks, those are the weak markets, is education and transportation in Missouri. Strong markets, retail, office.
Is that because of the state schools? Washington U is still been like, there's no, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, the state, yeah, UMSL's drying up. I think, MU is doing some work there, but, relatively speaking, not that strong. So that's what the numbers say as far as that. So then, that's the national, that's the state. What about St. Louis? Looking at 2018, I just got the numbers here today for our basic crafts that we track, the benefits hours that are paid for the basic crafts. Year to date, 18, or end of year 18 compared to end of year 17. Carpenters down 4%. Laborers about flat. Operating engineers down 3%. Cement masons about flat. The only uptick we had was in the iron workers, and I'm guessing that's because of the hospital and St. Louis U and Wash U, you know, all that structural steel they put in place, they were up 10%. So in the St. Louis marketplace, when you add it all up, we were off 1%. Again, you look back at those other markets, New York, Phoenix, Denver, LA, Indianapolis, all those. I mean, those are all going great guns. I looked at this. This is the chart that shows that St. Louis was last at the end of 17. For an example, third highest. And these are just some of our regional cities. Des Moines was number 3. Kansas City was number 13. Cleveland was 78. Pittsburgh was 78. Memphis, 195. Milwaukee, 195. Nashville, 316. Springfield, Illinois, 325. Peoria, 336. St. Louis, 350. So, we were down to Charleston, West Virginia, Abilene, Texas, and Laredo, Texas. So, and again, the top 5, as I guess was talked about in that other report, we got Miami, Hartford, Connecticut, Phoenix, Orlando, Midland, Texas, Fort Myers, New Orleans. Believe it or not, Detroit was 13. So,
please tell me you have good news.
pardon me?
So please tell me you have good news.
Oh, the good news. Well, the good news is the governor announced $350 million bonding package today, right? You know, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere, right? You know, there has to be a pony in here somewhere. Yeah, I think, you know, NGA was mentioned. You know, I think the 3 teams, we had the 3 teams meet in our office late last year. You know, we've got J.E. Dunn looking at it, we've got Al Marisi looking at it, McCarthy's looking at it, Clark out of D.C., Mortensen. So we had, you know, a lot of national folks who are familiar with working with the Corps. I think their submissions, I think they have to make their submissions here sometime before the end of this month. Selection is gonna be, in the spring, I understand. Of course, the Corps of Engineers is sort of on their own timeline, you know, that's what they say. But that should help absorb some of the capacity that we're gonna have with WashU winding down, St. Louis U winding down, Ballpark Village winding down, some of those things. So that's good news. The NGA is real good news. Of the little money that MoDOT does have left, they're talking about $250 million to rebuild all the bridges on 270 from Mississippi River over to Highway 70. All those bridges on that northern leg of 270 are 60 years old. So they're all, their rehabilitation plan right now, if you like drive underneath their Florissant Road or whatever, they have safety netting under the bridges so that the concrete doesn't fall on the automobiles right now. So, so they are, that is in their program. That's gonna happen. So that'll be a nice shot in the arm. And a lot of that has to do with all the freight work that's going on in Illinois, all the port work that's happening, that freight corridor that's coming across that 270 bridge and then heading out 70. That's a big piece of that. So MoDOT is ready to do that. That's happening. One of the other hats I wear is I'm the chair of the Rate Commission for MSD. And MSD is going to have a stormwater issue on the ballot in April. It's, you know, they have a consent decree that takes care of all the wastewater, but this is not under the consent decree. This is totally elective to fix flooding. It's an impervious area charge that will be on the April ballot. They have sort of tranches of impervious area. If you're in this bracket, you're going to pay this much a month. If you're in this bracket, you're going to pay that much a month. And that's not going to generate a lot of money. I think maybe $20 million a year, but it's $20 million a year that'll continue to go on to relieve some of the flooding problems. And it'll both be on private property or in watershed areas. They've identified, you know, over 500 projects that need to be taken care of in terms of the stormwater stuff. Who knows what's going to happen with the city-county thing? I mean, that could be good news for permitting. You know, that to me is our biggest problem when we look about trying to bring businesses into town or attract businesses. A few years ago, we hired a software, AGC hired a software company, and we were trying to do like a Google Maps sort of a thing, that if I put down a pinpoint here, who are all the permitting agencies I would need to go to find out who the fire district is, where I go to get my elevator permit, where I go to get my land use permit, where my environmental permit, you know, all these overlapping agencies. After about a year, the software guy said, we can't do it. It's impossible. We can't do it. There's so many layers of this jigsaw puzzle that you couldn't figure it out. And that is a huge issue for us, for attracting, you know, so maybe if, you know, in my mind, my simple mind, I guess I thought if there was a city-county merger, maybe that could have some positive impact on some of the permitting. I don't know, but that is a big barrier. So overall, NGA, the bridges, the MSD work, you know, the other strong markets, like I said, we saw the retail, we saw the office building and those sort of things still continuing to be strong. So I think that basically I went to my members and we budget, that we are calendar year, fiscal year, and I asked them, okay, how should I budget for 2019? Because our dues are based on volume of work. What's gonna happen? They said, just budget the same as you did in 18. So all those numbers on stuff, basically they're saying, not a lot of growth in 19, pretty much flat. Just budget the same. No big projects on the horizon that are gonna be like not dead. I mean, NGA will eventually get there, but like I said, you do have some other projects winding down. I think if Prop D were passed, it'd be a different story. With that not going. Who knows what's going to happen with marijuana? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the internet sales tax? I was kind of surprised it didn't come up during the state of the state today. Those are, so I think in essence it's sort of flat, but be prepared for all this technology stuff that's going to be hitting. I'll put in a little plug here. AGC of Missouri has started a weekly podcast, so you can go in your iTunes store or go on your Google Play and you can search for iPodcast AGCMO, and we'll have a weekly podcast of a contractor or economist or national leader or supplier or whatever to sort of help everybody keep up to date of what's going on. Hopefully that'll be an easy way for you to, and I won't be doing all the talking like I did tonight. You know, there'll be other folks involved in these things. So hopefully that'll help, but I think just looking forward, I'll tell you in terms of this workforce thing, and I'll sort of get off my script a little bit here. Current events. About 5 months ago, I did one of the smartest things I ever did, and I resigned as the vice chair of the St. Louis Agency of Training and Employment Board. I was a member of the Slate Board, and when they made the change in administration, it took me about 2 meetings to figure out we got a big problem there. When Mayor Cruson made that change, there's all hell's going to break loose on that when they really get down to the bottom line, which is misuse of federal funds. It's not going to be pretty, and at this whole time, when we're talking about workforce issues and trying to bring people into the workforce, that's going to be really tough. It's going to be another black eye, I think, for our region, unfortunately. Along the lines of workforce, everybody says, oh, we got to go to the high schools, we got to go to the grade schools. These young kids today, they don't care about construction. You know, they just want to sit there and play video games all day. I read a book called Men with Work, and it's a guy from Harvard. You know, I heard today that you're more likely to die of an opioid overdose than an automobile accident. For the first time, opioids have a higher fatality rate than automobile accidents. There is such a huge portion of what we would consider in construction the prime workforce of males between 22 and 40 who are either on painkillers or some way disabled because of this opioid deal. It is a huge vacuum in our workforce that nobody wants to talk about. That we're going to the high schools, on to kids, they don't wanna come into construction. Well, if you got more likelihood of dying of opioids than an automobile accident, there's a big problem there that we're not paying attention to. It's huge, it's a giant piece of our workforce that's missing. And then you can couple that with the fact that we are now also at the highest level of incarceration for that demographic that we've ever had in our history. So you add up the number of people who are in jail and the number of people who are on disability payments, and you have those two percentages, you've got unemployment at Depression era levels. Nobody talks about that. It's all about we gotta get these young kids in, we gotta do that. But that is a huge issue that we're looking at as AGC, trying to work with Department of Corrections. There's nothing that scares me more than this marijuana coming now. We've got a presentation on the 5th of February about marijuana in the workplace and how that's all gonna be handled. That's gonna be another issue that we have to deal with. But I think when we're talking about workforce, this whole thing with Slate is not gonna help us. And we need to deal with those issues. I mean, it sounds like I'm Debbie Downer, gloom and doom, but we gotta be honest about it, and those are markets that we can look at. I also serve on AGC of America's Education and Research Foundation, and we gave out $500,000 of scholarships last week. And when you sit down and read the scholarship applications, all the bad news goes away, because there's some great young people who want to get into the industry. And you read these scholarship apps, and it's almost to the point where it's hard to say no to any of these kids. So it's there, it's on the upswing. I think our thing is to stay focused on the technology changes, look at that public marketplace, and if we can deal with this large segment of that unemployed market, we need to stay that. I mean, the St. Louis market is hurt by, I think we're still hurt by this governance structure. We're still hurt by the Ferguson effect. We're still hurt by snow hanging on the ground for 3 weeks, But the good news is we're not going like this, but we're not going like that either. So that's what we're seeing. Yes, sir.
St. Louis is in the middle of a huge farm economy, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Arkansas, etc. And with the challenges with overseas trade, a lot of that funnels through Missouri, the banks, the employment, the seed companies, the transportation, etc. Is there any thought on effects of that on commodities, soybeans, corn, pork?
Yeah, I mean, the soybean guys the American Soybean Association is based in St. Louis. The National Corn Growers are in Missouri. Some of those big national trade organizations are here in Missouri. We don't really think about it, but yeah, they are concerned. They're seeing a hard market.
What about any positive effects from the treatment of overseas steel and aluminum commodities? Has that had a reduction of price effect in the construction trades or construction materials?
No, it's actually resulted in a little bit of an increase. Not wild, but there's been a little bump up, with the tariffs on the foreign steel and the use of domestic steel. It's come up a little bit, but nothing like, it's single digit.
Is there more
increases.
Steel production in the United States as a
Yes, sir.
result now?
Yes,
There is?
yes, there is. There is more steel production.
What about our automotive here in St. Louis? Is there any of that left at all, here at all?
I hate to say it, but I don't think Ford and Chrysler are coming back.
What about Hyundai?
Well, they're,
Mercedes?
what's his name, Chattanooga has Volkswagen down there. Now they're talking about building an Audi plant down there. in my lifetime, I don't see it, happening. I think that, you know, those markets have moved into the right to work and open shop states.
What about
quite
the
frankly.
Bayer, purchase of Monsanto? Is that yielding any more business activity here, or is the research center for them here staying, or?
I'll tell you, I think a big thing that helped them, I think the research is gonna stay, that whole Olive, Lindbergh corridor, that whole Danforth Plant Science Center and all that north of there, there's a huge redevelopment plan for that whole, northeast quadrant of that intersection. There's a lot of work to do there. I think the fact that Bayer was successful on its appeal on Roundup is gonna make a huge difference in what happens there. I think Monsanto might have been heading for the door to try to get away from that, cancer lawsuit, and Bayer won the most recent appeal. So it kinda, they had a pretty positive ruling there, so I think that'll help us in that area. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're gonna be staying there and continuing to build out that area. So that whole plant science, ag sort of marketplace is something we don't think about a lot, but I think that'll be a positive for us.
You know,
Yes, sir.
to touch real quick on what John was saying. I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of different things being built in the southeast. The automotive business you're talking about, it's going away, not just Missouri. When Mercedes-Benz is building a flash plant to a battery plant for their electric cars for 2024, I think it is, because they're gonna phase out the electrical engine. And you mentioned Monsanto Bear, which is great for St. Louis and stuff, but you gotta start thinking beyond of what made St. Louis or any other Midwest town was going on to what the next technology is. And that next technology, I told you earlier, we're a logistics town, and you gotta think logistics. The best business that started logistics was Express Scripts, right out of here, out of St. Louis. And Amazon's a logistic company. I think the biggest mistake we made is putting a pitch into Amazon to have their headquarters here. What we should have told them, you need to be bringing a logistics team here. That's how you have to think. That's how everyone else is thinking. Nashville is a healthcare-centric city. Once they realized, hey, we could do their healthcare business down here, now the finance companies are coming down there. It's still old businesses, but they're just moving there because it's a little cheaper, and the young kids want to be there. So you gotta think that way. Bring up what happened in the past, maybe learn why it went away, but you better find the new guys who want to do business at the crossroads of the country.
Well, that, you mentioned Crossroads, that's one of the things that kind of really was, you know, I was the co-chair of the campaign committee for Prop B, you know, and we got our butts kicked. Now look at gas prices, and I'm thinking, you kidding me, you couldn't afford another 2.5 cents a gallon? Seriously?
Erase the political boundaries, made it, consolidate.
Pardon?
Consolidated. They don't have the city county problem.
In Nashville. I went over to Indianapolis, you mentioned the word Crossroads, and you're driving into Indianapolis, and once there's a big white cross that's, what, 300 feet high, and that's what they're calling Indianapolis, Crossroads in the country. FedEx. I talked to a guy from Alvarezi the other day. He's going to be spending like the next 2 years over in Indianapolis working on all the FedEx work that's going on at the airport out there. You know, and that's sort of the frustrating things. We do have the geographic, you know, you can't move that river.
No.
That river's there. There's going to be barges going up and down that river that need service. There's going to be equipment going up. There's, you know, there's lock and dam work that's way overdue. And that whole logistics thing. You know, you mentioned Merchants Bridge. Merchants Bridge is going forward, but man, oh man, 110 years to rebuild that bridge? Seriously. You know, we're lucky we're getting to 270 after only 60 years. I tell people we've got to get those bridges fixed so they can get all those animals up there in that fancy new park they're building up there for the zoo. You know, hopefully the bridges won't fall down so they can get them all up there. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, a lot of questions, but.
That's good.
Back to the workforce participation. You were saying in construction, 73% here and 78% there, and so national, across the board, workforce participation is like 64%, is what I've read. But your comments about the opioid use being higher risk than automobile, I mean, is 64% optimistic? Is it really lower? Is it a bigger problem?
I think it's a bigger problem than people admit. I think it's a bigger problem than people admit when you look at the people who are. I don't know that those numbers include incarcerations. I don't know that those numbers include disability. When you put those two numbers in there, it changes the dynamics significantly.
Okay.
Well, I wish I could say we're getting ready to merge the city and county. We're gonna have one permitting agency. We're gonna start a whole new series of technical schools across the city to help people. I wish Prop D would have passed and we'd have another $400 million for transportation in the state. But that's the hand we're dealt, and I think, we're smart people. It's gonna be flat. This isn't 2008. It's not gonna drop off the table, but it's not gonna take off like a rocket ship either. Yes, sir.
We look ahead to 220 or 20.
I wish I was in the public relations business in 2020, because I could sell advertising like nobody's business. You know that? Part of the reason we lost Proposition D is we had a $5.5 million campaign in a election where $100 million was spent on that Senate seat between the two campaigns. So, 2020, I would say that NGA will be in full swing. 270 will be in full swing. You'll have, an election year, usually people like to spend money. I would say that we'll probably see, don't quote me on it, but I would say maybe a 3 to 5% uptick in 2020 because of for those reasons. I think this $350 million bonding package that the governor is talking about for those bridges statewide will kick in. Maybe the stock market will stop going up and down 400 points a day. Because investors like in Washington U or folks like that are building based on how their endowment is performing aren't going to start a big building project when they're watching the stock market do a bungee cord jump. So if there's some stability there, you'll start to see some more of that. So I would say 2020 has a lot brighter outlook than 19.
One other mention on the soccer stadium is a lot more real now.
Yeah.
Since Austin got their team yesterday, the #1 city in place for the next team is MLS soccer in St. Louis. And just to give you a little tidbit on MLS soccer, they average 20,000 people at their stadiums. They fill their stadium soccer. So think about 20 events now in St. Louis City dumping out into the St. Louis City area, 20,000 people. During a time frame from about March 1st, then you get baseball, and then blues hockey starts. So you almost got 3/4 of the year of activities going on in the city of St. Louis area. So if you want a little something to sleep on,
That's when the stadium construction would start, is probably 2020.
about the, and that gives you something to
And
sleep
I
on
think,
tonight.
and the city is, I think the city finally agreed to sell some bonds to fix up the convention center. You know, there's a couple $100 million of work that needs to be done at the convention center without the, you know, to convert that into more, to modernize that. I think he was finally successful in selling that to the Board of Aldermen, so you're gonna see an investment there, so that whole hospitality, piece and entertainment piece you'll start to see come back in 2020 also.
Kind of unrelated, but.
Yes, sir.
You're in the know. Is Crocky gonna be responsible to us as PSL owners?
I think the court said he was.
Okay.
Yeah, the court said he was, and, he's gotta pay back a portion of your ticket. The unused portion of your PSL.
Yeah, they really tout him as one of the country's richest men, and they show him in his big stadiums.
Yeah, yeah. So you're not rooting for the Rams this week?
I root for the players, I don't root for management.
Well, I any other questions? Yes, sir.
As being part of the AGC of America, obviously, I'm sure you rub shoulder with some of the counterparts of the booming cities. What do they attribute the growth in those cities to, your counterparts in those areas?
Well, I'll tell you, our economic development, just as fragmented as our government and our permitting is, that's just how fragmented our economic development partnership is. They've got a core group of civic leaders. You know, back in the 1960s, we had civic progress, when you had all those corporate leaders that banded together and promoted the region, when they built the Arch, when they built Poplar Street Bridge, when they built Mansion House, when they built Bush Stadium, they built all the parking garages. They had those core leaders that came together. You know, can anybody name who the executive director of the St. Louis Regional Chamber is? Huh? Huh?
Did he just get fired, Joe Reagan?
Yeah. Anybody know who the new guy is?
Julie?
Yeah, so you got chamber, you got civic progress, you got regional business council. You know, Kathy Osborne was the woman of the year. You got St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. You got Missouri Partnership. You got all these different. The fragmented economic development thing is we can't send a clear picture because of that disjointedness. So I think that when I talk to the other folks in the other cities, you know, they've got that corporate community together that I think is a piece that we had and has slipped away. You know, I just filled out, I got a survey from the St. Louis Regional Chamber today, and they're bugging me about filling it out, and that's what I put on there. So you guys need to get all these different agencies together to push the region collectively. I think that's where that'd be a huge improvement we could make to get paid. I mean, thank God we got NGA. You know, thank God we got that, and that didn't go over to Illinois. Any other questions? So, if you are insomniac, subscribe to iPodcast, AGCMO, and once a week, I know you'll get a good night's sleep. It's gonna come out either every Monday night or Tuesday night, and you can hear it, send you the updates, and we'll work to keep it interesting and hopefully keep you up to date. As I said, anybody that wants copies of those numbers, just give me a business card and all. It's two different files. I'll just email them to you, and you'll have it for next year. But
Do you have any
thanks.
podcasts under your belt already, or you just?
Yeah, there are two up there
Who are your
now.
guests?
The first one was just me talking about what it is. The second one, I've got our lobbyist talking about what the legislative outlook is in 2019. Third one, I've got our chairman of the board, Chip Jones from Emery Sapp and Son, guy who slid the bridges into place. Fourth one is gonna be Steve Sandher, who is AGC of America's, Chief Executive Officer. Fifth one is gonna be an attorney, who is a, construction attorney for Greensfelter. So we're working to mix it up and keep it along those lines, so that's the goal for it. So, Mark, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks everyone for joining again. Next month, we'll be right back at this room, February 19th, it's a Tuesday, so thanks again.
Yeah.